Oh my god, you gotta do yourself a favor and make this. It is so good. Hi, I'm Jillian. Let's make spaghetti. I'm not a chef, just somebody who really likes to cook. So add an ingredient you like, take an ingredient out, do whatever your little heart desires. This is how I do it. Let's get started. So I'm going to start with mise en place, which just means getting all of your items together that you need and prepping them up, dicing them up, whatever, and then we can start the actual cooking. So let's start chopping. All right, so I'm going to be starting with my veg here, and I have a bell pepper, some garlic, some white onion. You can use white or yellow. I use either or, and I'm going to chiffonade some basil. So let's start preparing our vegetables. This sauce we're making today is a ragu, so it will have meat, but you can easily remove the meat and veggies to make it a marinara. I also like adding mushrooms to this recipe sometimes. I'm gonna finish up these bell peppers, and I don't like to waste these little butt ends, so they might not be the exact same shape and size as the other pieces, but I get them in the pot too. No man left behind. Now, typically for this, I would use a green bell pepper, but I had some orange bell pepper left over in my fridge, so that's what I'm using. You use whatever kind of peppers you like. Here is my little tip for how I like to dice up an onion. So I go horizontally, almost to the end, but not all the way. And I'm going to do it a second time. And then we are going to make, very carefully, some vertical cuts this way, like so. Very carefully, because it gets a little slippery. But that's why we don't cut all the way to this end, because then it holds it intact for you. And now, I'm going to dice this way. And then it will give us a nice dice. Flip that bad boy down on flat part and keep going. Chiffonade is just basically cutting it into like thin little ribbons. So I'm going to take maybe 3, 4 leaves. We'll do 4. So I'm going to take 4 good sized leaves here. These are some big basil leaves. Look at that. I like it. Okay, so I'm going to stack them like this. And then I'm just going to roll them up tightly. Roll them, roll them. Nice. Okay. And then I'm just going to give them a little run through with my knife. Beautiful. Ooh, that fresh basil smells so good. All right. Now that we've got our mise en place done, we're ready to get cooking. So let's get it in a pot. All right, after a couple minutes, now that those are nice and fragrant, I'm gonna get my couple tablespoons of garlic in there. I add the garlic last because it cooks quickly and it will burn, and it gets super bitter when it burns. I like to kind of push my vegetables to the side and add my meat to the middle so I can just use one pot. And for this recipe, I'm using 85/15 grass-fed beef, but you can use whatever meat you like. And go ahead and season your meat. All right, there's a lot of liquid that comes out of those peppers. If you want to drain that off, it'll give you a little bit more of a sear on your meat. You can brown it a little bit better. I am lazy and I don't feel like doing that, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just give this meat a little mix. I try to kind of keep the vegetables to the side while I'm doing this part, but it's a small pot. My big pot's being used over here for my pasta water. All right, I'm gonna give it another little stir. A few more minutes have passed. I'm gonna add some tomato paste. I like adding the tomato paste at this step because I find it easier to mix in with the meat rather than once all the liquid's been added. It's starting to sauce. Our sauce is starting to sauce. All right, so I got some diced tomatoes. Yes. And I'm gonna go in with some vegetable broth. Use whatever you like here. You can use beef stock. If you're making a chicken sauce, you could do chicken stock. You could even, I've in a pinch done this with just water. And now I'm gonna start, I kicked my heat up to high because I want to bring this to a boil. And then once it's at a boil, I'm gonna reduce the heat and I'm gonna let it simmer for a while to let those flavors marry. Now I'm gonna add my seasonings. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of sugar. Yes, sugar. It helps balance out the acidity in the tomatoes, and I find that it helps get rid of that tinny flavor that you get sometimes from the canned tomatoes. So I got a tablespoon of sugar in there. And then in here I've got my salt, pepper, I've got Italian seasoning, oregano, and parsley. Let me get all them bad boys in there. All right, and last but not least, I'm gonna add my chiffonade of basil. I like the fresh basil, a little extra in there. All right, now that we're rocking and rolling and we've got this to a rolling boil, I'm gonna kick the heat down a little bit. I'm gonna give it a stir. And I'm gonna let it go with the lid off for a little while so it'll reduce down a little bit. Now that the flavor's on point, it's reduced a little, I'm happy. I'm gonna cornstarch slurry this a little bit to get the thickness that I want. So I'm gonna slowly add this cornstarch slurry. I'm gonna add about half, see how we're looking. Nice. Tightening up. I want it to. I want it a little thicker. And like I said before, do this however you want. If you liked how it was before, you wanted a little runny, do that. Don't put any cornstarch slurry in it. You want it real thick? Add more. I wouldn't add too much because it starts to get kind of gelatinous and it's off-putting. This right here for me is perfect. Got the meat in there, you got the veggies. This is a beautiful ragu for me. Yes. All right. We're gonna let these noodles finish cooking and then we're gonna plate this up. All right, let's finish this bad boy off. I got my angel hair pasta in my bowl here. I've got my sauce. Let's get some of that sauce on here. Yes. Yes. Give it a little parm. A lot of parm. Yeah. Yes, buddy. All right, there's our final product. Let's give it a taste. Let's see how she turned out. Ooh, it looks hot. I just know this is gonna do me wrong. Oh my God, you gotta do yourself a favor and make this. It is so good. We got the meat in there, the veggies, the parm on top. I've done this with a whole different kinds of noodles. It's so good. Make you some spaghetti. All right. That's hot. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, follow, subscribe. And until next time, ciao, baby.